Train the flow of speaking through natural movement of thought. Use 7 simple steps. These steps work like a color staircase. Seven simple steps, 7 colors. Well, honestly, let me think. Off the top of my head, I'd probably say the first thing that comes to mind is, so yeah, that's where I'd start. Well, that's a good question. I'm not totally sure. Maybe we should start there. So what would you do first? Well, I'd probably ask a few questions first. Do you think it's a big problem? Well, that depends on how often it happens. Honestly, I'm not sure. That sounds better. I'd keep it simple. Do you like this version? Honestly, the other one sounds more natural. Should we change the plan? Honestly, yeah, I think we should. Let me think. If I had to answer right now, the first thing I'd check is maybe the problem is. So what matters most here? At the end of the day, people need clarity. What's the real lesson? At the end of the day, simple communication works better. Off the top of my head, I'd say clarity matters most. The first option sounds better. I can think of 2 examples. What comes to mind first? Off the top of my head, better structure and clearer wording. Can you think of an example? Off the top of my head, stressful meetings are a good one. I'd probably say the second one. Clarity matters most. We need more context. So what's your answer? I'd probably say the simpler version works better. Which part matters most? I'd probably say the tone, not just the words. The first thing that comes to mind is clarity, is the tone, is better timing. What's the first thing you think of here? The first thing that comes to mind is clearer communication. So what stands out most? The first thing that comes to mind is how confusing it can be. So yeah, that's where I'd start. I'd start in this case. I'd start first. So what would your first step be? Clearer wording? So yeah, that's where I'd start. Well, would you begin with this? I'd start with the main idea. So yeah, that's where I'd start. Well, that's a good question. Honestly, I'd keep it simple. Let me think. Off the top of my head, clarity matters most. I'd probably say the tone is the key part. The first thing that comes to mind is better structure. So yeah, that's where I'd start. Well, that's actually a good question. Honestly, I'd keep the answer simple and clear. Let me think of for a second. Off the top of my head, the biggest thing is probably clarity. I'd probably say the tone matters. The first thing that comes to mind is how people react. So yeah, that's where I'd start. So what do you think? Well, I think we're making it more complicated than it needs to be. Is this a big issue? Well, yeah, kind of, if it keeps happening. Do you like this version? Honestly, the other one sounds way more natural. Should we keep it like this? Honestly, I'd simplify it. So what would you say first? Let me think. Probably start with the main point. Which option is better? Let me think. I'd go with the shorter one. What comes to mind first? Off the top of my head, clearer wording. Can you think of one good example? Off the top of my head, stressful meetings are a big one. So what matters most here? I'd probably say clarity. Which version would you choose? I'd probably say the simple one. What's the first thing you think of here? The first thing that comes to mind is better structure. So what stands out most? The first thing that comes to mind is how unclear it feels. So what would your first move be? clearer wording. So yeah, that's where I'd start. Where would you begin with this? With the main message first. So yeah, that's where I'd start.